Hello everyone. This is the part 2 of our GVM term analysis fundamentals. So what we're going to be seeing next essentially is the troubleshooting and analysis goals. Okay, so we'll do a quick overview of such goals, and then we'll start to have a look at thread dump data overview. So for that, we'll take a small sample of a thread dump that we'll review quickly together before we jump to our next session. Okay, so let's start with the goals. So first question you may want to ask yourself, or even more experienced developers or support engineers, essentially, why do you need to learn how to read thread dump snapshots, right? I think that's a fairly good question because that task can be a bit complex at first. So I listed a few goals, right, that will help. Well, first of all, this is mainly to identify the application and Java concurrency problems, right? Basically, you do an assessment at the threads level. Of course, you may want to identify the root cause of performance-related problems, right? Thread dump is all about the end of the day performance, stability, availability. These type of contexts that you will start truly doing deep dive into the data. Of course, you could be looking at the thread dump for different goals. Your application could be functioning properly, but you may want to expose the primary response time contributors or performance bottlenecks, right? Because, for example, if an application requests, let's say it's taking 15 seconds, right, to fetch some data from a database, so obviously that slowdown behavior will show up in the thread dump, right? So you will see which code, what Java code is the culprit, including the stack trace and everything with the which interface to the database, right? So that definitely performance bottlenecks and contributors will show up in the thread dump. Now, the more advanced goals also would include, for example, an assessment of the impact of the JVM pause time, right, on application threads. Again, if you have JVM problems, these symptoms will show up also in the thread dumps, right? Because the JVM will pause time will also trigger some thread suspension, right, at the JVM level. And overall, the thread dump will help you overall with your knowledge, significantly improve your knowledge and RC skills, obviously, because once you're able to master that skill, pretty much will help everything else, right? Because it's forcing you to learn quite deep the internals of the JVM and also middleware technologies and more insight into the troubleshooting world. And of course, much more as we will see in the more advanced course. With the problem patterns, you will see you can definitely identify much more problems than you think by having techniques that thread them alone, and especially when you combine it with other tools, including APM technologies. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is have a look at a very short overview of a thread dump sample. So I don't want to start too fast, so we'll just start to do a quick brief overview. So what you see here is essentially just the raw data of a sample thread dump, right, that was captured on the hotspot JVM. So that's the keyword that you will always see here, right? Full thread dump Java hotspot. So that snapshot is applicable for the Oracle hotspot, not IBM, right? G9, which has a separate format that we'll see later. Okay, so thread dump at the end of the day, it's pretty much right a snapshot of all the actual threads, right? So if we scroll down, you will see essentially you see multiple stack trays of all the active or the created threads, right, in the JVM. And you can see sometime, depending on the size of the application, you could have just a few, and some for a large enterprise application, depending if it was captured during a problem, you will see quite a few threads, like sometimes hundreds or even thousands of Java threads, right? So basically the first portion is always the listing of all these threads, and at the very end you'll get also more native threads like the garbage collection threads depending on the policy that you're using, and also the hotspot format starting with JDK 1.6 plus. You also get the utilization of the Java heap at that time, which I found extremely useful, right? That you get the data in the single view, because again, remember, right, based on our goals, you can assess the health of the JVM just quickly, the utilization, and see if the JVM is in good shape or not at the time of the thread dump generation. Okay, so going back, as I said, nothing to be concerned about, so we keep it simple for now. So listing of all the threads, native thread at the bottom, and then heap usage, which we'll see together. Okay, that's essentially it. A bit of word right now on each of the threads is that essentially for each of the threads you will get the same type of information, right? For hotspots, so typically you will get the thread name. Okay, like in this example, that sample was taken through a GDK 1.6 environment using Oracle WebLogic. Okay, the actual WLI product. So that's why you will see it really depends on the middleware. So we'll see that more in problem patterns when we have a look at multiple snapshots between multiple. So we'll cover that in future sessions, right? The differences between format. Let's see if you take thread from Apache Tomcat versus JBoss versus Oracle WebLogic. So we'll cover quite a few Java containers so we can help you differentiate the pattern. This one, just to keep in mind, this is using Oracle WebLogic, so that's why you will see separate thread pool name pattern depending on which servlet, Java container, or servlet engine technology that your application is using. Or of course, if you're just taking thread from a standalone Java application, well, you won't see probably just a few threads. Like in this case, you may just see a main thread, right, from your main Java class, where you will see your application code showing up here, right? So that being said, as I mentioned, to get a thread name here and you get the information on native, and we'll get back to this, but most importantly, you get the stack trace, right? That's the key value of the thread dump. The stack trace is essentially, right, the runtime execution, right, snapshot or stack, or where the thread is at that point, right? So this is the key piece of information, because essentially if you're having trouble with response time, or the server is unresponsive, then the stack trace will tell you where the threads, what the threads are doing, right? Are they waiting for some resources? Are they waiting to acquire lock, right? Which will be in this case lock contention. Or they just, for some reason, they seem suspended, right? And not doing anything, which again could be symptom of a garbage collection problem. So you see, the thread will definitely give you a lot of feedback, right? And potential symptoms. So as you're gaining experience, you'll be able to differentiate between symptom and source of the problem. So that's what we'll learn in the advanced training. So right now, as I said, we won't start to go too fast with that. So just keep that in mind for now. Thread name, some of the information, then you get the actual stack trace, which is the key data itself. And then after that, we'll start to do the analysis. So I'll dedicate a separate session on just to show you how I analyze the data and some tips and tricks, how you can quickly filter out the data and don't lose too much time. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, if you go one by one, and you can get lost and can probably spend an hour without even knowing, okay, all these threads are doing something, but how can I know, right, what they're doing? Complexity will come if the problem is showing outside your application code. So now that it's forcing you to acquire some knowledge of the Java container. So we'll get back to this, right? Like in this example, right? If we do a quick example, actual threads, right? There's no, it's trying to acquire a lock from a log on a logger, right? So and again, these type of issue can be quite confusing because they are showing up outside your application code, and these are the type of patterns that we'll view together, how we strategies on how to progress with the analysis for these more complex scenarios. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So now that we've overview of a sample, and we'll get back. So the next session, which is part 3, will focus essentially on the fundamentals on how to get the thread dump itself. Different techniques, so we'll use different OS, different tools to achieve that. So this is what I'm going to show you, because first you need to understand how to generate the thread dump and also best practices around it. So not just getting a thread dump when things are healthy, they won't necessarily give you a lot of value. So you need to be very strategic about how you want to capture the data, and that's why I'll dedicate the part 3 to the technique generation and also strategy around which scenario you want to generate the data. Okay, all right, thank you. So I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial today, and we'll get back with the part 3.